everybody, Rasatiat here in Singapore, and it is another wonderful day during the COVID circuit breaker quarantine period, and we are doing our best to stay sane here in Singapore. So, for those of you out there that have heard the last couple of episodes, I know, bear with me, there's a lot going on, and I do have a lot of ideas to share, a lot of insights to share, because I've been having loads of conversations in the last couple of weeks or so. A lot of the clients are actually streaming in a little bit more often. I've had a lot of requests for classes and digital downloads, stuff like that, just to be able to help people, give them tools to kind of work through things. A lot of them don't have the time to be able to dedicate to regular therapy sessions or counseling sessions, and they do still want the help. They do still want the benefit of my insight, because I've lived through a great many things, and I have an idea of how to go start tackling some of these issues in your life. So I'm creating whatever I can on a smaller capacity so that you are able to get bite-sized pieces of whatever it is that you need to be able to start working on the relationships in your life, the communications in your life, to be able to have more peace and enjoy your life a little bit more. So with that being said, though, I need to address something that's very, very important to me. As you all know, I am a single mom. My baby girl is about 9 years old now, and we talk about everything. The benefit of being a single child, especially in my household, is the fact that she gets my undivided attention for the most part. Sometimes I am working beside her while she does her own stuff, but for the most part, we talk about everything. Whatever we watch on TV, we discuss. Whether it's One Day at a Time, which we really loved that series on Netflix. What else? We've loved the originals. We've watched Riverdale. We've watched a lot. Okay, so we get to watch situational comedies, romantic comedies, stuff like that. But that's all based on real life, things that have actually happened to someone at some point, and we get to see both sides of a story. With that being said, though, what we don't see enough of is situations where you have someone telling you to do something, and then you see what you're telling yourself in the meantime. This is that self-talk subject where people don't really have a good concept of how it happens, why it happens, and we're not taught to be self-aware of what we're telling ourselves. So this is where I want to start. Baby girl and I were having a conversation the other day, and I could see from her face that she was getting super frustrated with me because, as you all know, during the circuit breaker, this period of time, all the schools are shut down. They're doing SLS, which is an online learning facility where they can actually sit down and do their classes. So there are assignments that are assigned to each class. They have a time frame within which they need to complete the tasks, and sometimes it's listening to an audio and then answering questions. Sometimes it's a worksheet that they have to do reading comprehension on, which means they need to annotate and then answer the MCQ or the open-ended questions, just to be able to make sure that they read the content and understand what they're talking about, right? So with all that being said, I knew that she was getting frustrated in the math portion. So my advice to her, because I know how she learns and I know she needs a system so she doesn't miss anything along the way, I kind of taught her a way that I thought would be very helpful. I made sure I created a system, like first you do this, next you do that, everything in order so she would not forget anything. But it wasn't until I saw the video from the teacher where she had made a step-by-step video telling the students how to correct the worksheet that they were supposed to do for homework the previous day. When she broke it down, I suddenly realized why my daughter was missing certain steps. It was based on the way that her teacher was teaching her. So there's a disconnect, right? I teach my way, the teacher teaches her way. But who does she get in trouble with? The teacher, unfortunately, because that's the way she has to do it in school. And it's the terminology the teacher uses versus the terminology that I use. I make sure that whatever I tell her, it's related to things that she will easily relate to. Maybe I make jokes when it comes to spelling. I make jokes or sentences that make the whole the spelling of the word becomes funny a little bit, or there's a trick to remembering what word or what letter rule that they're trying to follow in English. So I make sure that it's fun and easy for her to remember so she doesn't forget. But with math, there's not a lot of humor that I can throw in there, right? So right now they're working on long division and the kind that has remainders. So I need her to know her times tables. Now, for the most part, she knows. When I'm doing homework at home with her, what she needs to do is write down the times table from 1 to 10 on the side column so she can easily refer to it. Every time she writes it down, it becomes easier for her to memorize. And that's the reason for this. So let's say she has 4 long division sums on the page, and maybe one 6 times table, 7 times table, 8 times table, 9 times table. If she writes all of them from 1 until 10, next to each sum, she knows that she can get the right answer. It becomes easier for her to not make a mistake. If she does it all in her head, the chances for human error are very, very high. And I don't need her to lose confidence by getting things wrong. So this is what I've taught her. You write down the whole times table on the side, and then you start working. The first thing you have to do, though, is write at the top where the quotient would be what the answer is, and then reverse engineer it. So let's say it's 369 divided by 3, right? How many 3's in 3? There's 1, so you got to put the 1 up top, and then you're going to say 1 times 3 equals 3, so just double check, and then you start working your way down. So I've made sure of that, because several times when she does it on her own, she misses writing the quotient, but she's doing the work below. And that's where she's gotten it wrong before. So when I saw the teacher's video, I realized, okay, this is what the teacher is doing. Now the teacher's also telling her to write up top, but she's not telling her to write up top first. She's telling her to write up top second, which is why she's forgetting entirely. She's caught up with the workings below instead. So it wasn't until I saw that I realized what was happening. Now, when I sat down to speak with her, though, she was already just like grumpy and not in a good space. She did not want to hear it. She was just tired. She was angry. She was not happy. And she was losing confidence. So when I asked her, hey, what are you upset about? She said, oh my God, you always have something to say. I'm never good enough. I always get everything wrong. I hate doing this. I hate math. And I was like, whoa, okay. First of all, used always and never in the same conversation. And you feel like I'm picking on you, but I'm not. So we had to go into another conversation about what she was telling herself versus what I was actually telling her. She was giving herself the meaning of what I was saying, like translating for herself, but it wasn't what I was telling her. I was telling her, hey, don't forget to write these on top. I don't want you to get this wrong. And she was hearing it as, because she was repeating it to herself, oh, I can never do anything right. Oh my God, this is never good enough for you. You're never happy with me. You always have something to say. So she was reminding herself of those things. And when she told me that, when she was able to finally come out and say, yes, this is what I'm telling myself, I was like, you know what? I need to do a podcast on this, because you know how many people, adults included, do this exact same thing. We do blanket statements to make ourselves feel better, and then we put ourselves down because we already feel some kind of way about being corrected about something. So I need people to understand, you need to be very careful about what you tell yourself something means. Let's say, I'm going to use my daughter as an example again. When I'm serving lunch, if I tell her to bring out the rice first and then put the curries, it's because I want the rice at the bottom of the plate so the curries can kind of fill up the top of the plate and the liquid part can actually soak up in the rice, and then it helps the rice to cook evenly, or like soften up evenly when you put in the microwave. There's a reason for that. And for the most part, I do explain why I do things the way that I do them so she understands. But there are sometimes where I'm in a hurry and I just give her the instructions and she takes it as I'm being short with her, which I am, or that I'm being angry with her because she's done something wrong. So then she goes into this rant inside her head about, gosh, I can never do anything right. Oh my gosh, she's yelling at me again. I didn't do anything wrong. Why is she even yelling at me? Things like that. And we're prone to doing the same things as adults. So I need people to understand, the more you can become aware of what you're telling yourself something means, the easier it is to pinpoint what actually happened. Now, there's a second layer to that. You got to be super honest with yourself about what's really going on. And that's the hard part. We don't want to admit that we took something out of context. We don't want to admit when we blew something out of proportion. We damn sure don't want to admit if we took it the wrong way or made it seem like it was way worse than it actually was. We don't want to admit to ourselves that somebody with love told us to do something and we turned it into they hate us, they don't love us enough, and that's why they're correcting us all the time. Let me tell you something. Most people, if they love you, even if they have a silly way of showing it, right? And not let's say an inefficient way of showing it, if they're going to spend the breath and tell you to do something and explain it afterwards, they care. If they didn't care, they wouldn't correct you and they damn sure wouldn't explain. So that's something I need you to pay plenty of attention to. But in the meantime, you also really need to listen to what it is that you're telling yourself. That's where you can actually figure out where you're depressed and where you're not. You can figure out where, you were in a good mood and suddenly everything changed. Suddenly you're depressed again. What happened? What changed? Maybe you didn't hear anything outside, but maybe you told yourself something. Maybe you reminded yourself, you know what? I feel good, but it's too good to last because no one really loves me. And then suddenly you're back down in the dumps again. It's that fast. It really is that fast. You can go from 100 down to 0 really fast, depending on what you're telling yourself. So this is where I really need people to pay attention. Yes, you have plenty of people that comment, plenty of people that speak to you, plenty of people that WhatsApp you, they video call you, you have people in the house that you speak to on a regular basis. You need to get into the habit of really listening for what they're saying. And I'm not saying read between the lines. That's not what I'm saying at all. Listen to what they're saying. There is no, did you catch the hint? There is no, I learned by osmosis. You need to pay attention to what it is they're actually saying. And if you have any doubts about what it means, ask. Clarify on the spot. Don't ruminate on your own. Don't marinate on your own. And then later on, come back and ask them what they meant, because chances are they're not in that mood anymore and they're not in that space anymore and they don't remember what they said. It's that fast. So please, in order to save yourself the heartache, please clarify if you don't understand when someone says anything. And if someone's hurting your feelings as they're correcting you, let them know on the spot so they can expect to be able to give you an explanation of why, to be able to explain where they're coming from, what it is that they're trying to tell you, why they're telling you to do it this way instead of that way. Have the discussion. Most times when someone gives you instruction, you are expected to discuss it. Ask them questions, please. Don't assume you know it all and then get upset later because you told yourself something about what it meant. It's so much easier and so much more helpful to you if you learn to clarify on the spot. A lot of times we're too afraid to open up and ask because you're afraid of being seen as stupid. Well, guess what? The only stupid questions out there are the ones that don't get asked, because then you assume and then you're definitely going to get it wrong, right? So I really need you guys to be a little more self-aware. Pay attention to what it is you're saying to yourself. Pay attention to what it is that you're telling yourself something means, because that's where all your feelings are coming from as well. That's how you keep yourself in a bad mood or change from a good mood to a bad mood really fast. It's also the key to being able to switch it the other direction just as fast. You know how they have a switch that they throw when they want to change tracks on a train station? It's just like that. If you can figure out where it is that you go from good to bad, you can figure out how to reverse engineer that and switch it the other direction. It is possible. And I will cover that in another podcast soon. But for now, please, see if you can't start paying attention more. See if you can't keep a journal on what's going on. When you go from a good mood to a bad mood and you recognize that you did, pull out a piece of paper and write down what happened. And I mean, be very, very honest. What were you thinking? What happened? Did anyone from outside of you, like an outside influence, say something? Was there a trigger word? Was it a line in a song that reminded you of another relationship? Was it, seen in a movie? Was someone short with you and suddenly you felt like you were worthless, or you felt like, they weren't respecting you somehow? What was it that triggered you? Because if you can figure that out and you can write it down, you can remember it. And once you can remember it, you can recognize it the next time and see if it's always the same thing or not. From there, we reverse engineer. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment space below. And if you find like you need immediate assistance because this is something that you notice happens a lot and you're having trouble trying to figure it out for yourself, please reach out to me, DM me, and let's see if we can't schedule a time together where we can catch up, we can touch base and give you a couple strategies on how to notice so you can write it down effectively. Until then, you guys, please stay safe, stay sane, and try to find more excuses to laugh and smile every day. All right? I love you guys. Bye.